The red warning lights flashed across the control room as the UES Pioneer's engines died without warning. Alex Reeves felt his stomach drop as the ship's artificial gravity flickered and failed. Around him, his crew of 30 floated helplessly as their exploration vessel drifted dead in space near the Rigel system. "What happened to our engines?" Alex asked his chief engineer, Tom Walsh, who was frantically checking his instruments. "I don't know, sir. Everything just shut down at once. It's like something is jamming our systems from the outside." Before Alex could respond, massive shadows fell across their viewports. 3 enormous ships, each easily 10 times larger than the Pioneer, had appeared from nowhere. Their hulls gleamed with an otherworldly blue light, and strange symbols pulsed along their sides. "Those aren't human ships," whispered Lisa Park, the communications officer. The largest alien vessel moved closer, and suddenly every screen on the Pioneer flickered to life. A voice spoke in perfect English, though it carried an odd clicking sound beneath the words. "Human vessel, you have entered Galactic Council territory without permission. Prepare to be boarded. Any resistance will result in your immediate destruction." Alex exchanged worried looks with his crew. They were over 400 light-years from Earth, farther than any human had ever traveled. The Pioneer was supposed to be humanity's first deep space exploration mission, not a first contact scenario. "This is Captain Alex Reeves of the United Earthship Pioneer. We come in peace and had no knowledge we were entering claimed territory. We're explorers, not soldiers. Your intentions are irrelevant. Comply or die." Within minutes, strange blue beams surrounded the Pioneer and pulled it into the cargo bay of the lead alien ship. The human crew found themselves face to face with their captors. The aliens were tall and reptilian, with gray-green scales covering their bodies. Their yellow eyes seemed to glow in the dim light, and their mouths were filled with sharp teeth. Their leader, who introduced himself as Commander Voss, studied the humans with obvious disappointment. "So small and weak," Voss said to one of his subordinates in their clicking language. A translation device on his belt converted his words to English. How did such primitive creatures develop space travel? Alex tried to maintain his dignity despite their situation. "We may be new to deep space, but we're not primitive. We've developed faster than light travel, fusion power, and advanced computing systems." Commander Voss laughed, a harsh sound like grinding metal. "Your ship barely qualifies as space-worthy by our standards. Your weapons are chemical explosives and crude projectiles. Your armor is simple metal plating. You are children playing with toys." Over the following days, Commander Voss interrogated each crew member extensively. He wanted to know everything about Earth, human technology, population numbers, and military capabilities. The Draknari, as they called themselves, seemed particularly interested in Earth's location and defenses. "Your world has no energy shields," Voss noted with amusement. "No plasma weapons, no gravitic drives. How do you expect to defend yourselves? Against real military forces?" "We've never needed to," Alex replied honestly. "We've never encountered hostile alien life before." That is about to change. Meanwhile, in the heart of Galactic Council space, Prime Advisor Kell received Commander Voss's report with mild interest. The ancient Quellian's blue-skinned face showed no emotion as he reviewed the data about humanity. "Another primitive species discovered on the rim," he said to the assembled council representatives. "Their technology is roughly equivalent to what we possessed 3,000 years ago. They pose no threat to council interests." The Etherian delegate, a being of pure energy contained within a crystalline shell, pulsed with curiosity. Should we simply ignore them? Their rapid development might prove useful. "No," replied the Draknari ambassador, his scales rippling with excitement. "We should bring them into the council as tribute-paying subjects. Their world appears to have useful resources, and their population could provide adequate labor. Prime." Advisor Kell considered this. The Galactic Council had grown through exactly such acquisitions. Primitive worlds were absorbed, their populations put to work serving the greater good of galactic civilization. It was a system that had worked perfectly for over 3 millennia. Very well. Send a patrol fleet to this Earth. The standard diplomatic integration protocol should suffice. The standard protocol involved sending 50 warships to demonstrate overwhelming force, then offering the primitive species a choice: submit to Council authority and accept their guidance, or face complete annihilation. In 3,000 years, no species had ever chosen destruction over submission. Back on the Draknari flagship, Alex and his crew watched helplessly as Commander Voss prepared his report for transmission to Earth. The message was simple and direct. People of Earth, your exploration vessel and crew are now property of the Galactic Council of Worlds. Your planet has been marked for integration into our civilization. You will receive our diplomatic representatives within 30 of your days. You will submit to Council authority, provide tribute as determined by our assessors, and accept our guidance in all matters of interstellar significance. Failure to comply will result in the complete sterilization of your world and the elimination of your species. This is not a negotiation. This is a statement of fact. Alex felt sick as he realized what was about to happen to his home world. Humanity had dreamed of making contact with alien life for centuries, but their dreams had never included conquest and subjugation. "Commander Voss," Alex said desperately, "you're making a mistake. Humans won't just surrender. We're not built that way." The reptilian commander's laugh was even harsher than before. "Your species has no choice. You have seen our technology. You know you cannot resist. The Council fleet that comes to your world will carry weapons capable of cracking planets. Your primitive missiles and energy weapons cannot penetrate our shields or armor. Accept your fate with dignity, and perhaps your species will be allowed to survive as servants." As the alien fleet prepared to depart for Earth, Alex stared out at the stars and wondered if humanity would still exist in 2 months' time. The Galactic Council seemed so confident, so certain of their superiority. But they had never met humans who were truly desperate. They had never encountered a species that built weapons not just for war, but for survival. They had never faced an enemy that would rather die fighting than live in chains. Most importantly, they had never realized that humanity's greatest strength wasn't their technology or their numbers. It was their absolute refusal to give up, no matter how hopeless the situation appeared. The emergency session of the United Nations Security Council had been going for 18 hours straight. Admiral David Carter rubbed his tired eyes as he watched world leaders argue about humanity's response to the alien ultimatum. The message from the Galactic Council had reached Earth 3 days ago, and panic was spreading across the planet. "We should negotiate," insisted the German representative. "Surely these aliens can be reasoned with. We can offer them resources, technology sharing, cultural exchange." "They're not interested in negotiation," David replied firmly. "Their message was clear. Submit or die. Those are our only options according to them." President Maria Santos leaned forward in her chair. "Admiral Carter, give me an honest assessment. Can we fight them?" David looked around the room at the assembled leaders of Earth's most powerful nations. What he was about to tell them would either save humanity or doom it completely. Publicly, our United Defense Fleet has 200 ships. They're good ships with brave crews, but they're no match for the alien technology we've analyzed from the Pioneers' sensor recordings. Their weapons are more advanced, their shields are impenetrable by our current arsenal, and their ships are simply bigger and tougher than ours. The room fell silent. Several representatives looked defeated already. "However," David continued, "there's something the aliens don't know about, something we've kept secret for 50 years. He activated a holographic display that showed the solar system. Red dots appeared throughout the asteroid belt, around the outer planets, and on the far side of the moon. In 1975, a group of military planners became convinced that humanity would eventually face an existential threat from space. They began the Deep Fleet project in absolute secrecy. What started with a few hidden shipyards has grown into humanity's greatest achievement. The hologram zoomed in on the red dots, revealing massive military installations hidden in asteroids, underground complexes on distant moons, and shipyards built inside hollowed-out planetoids. Ladies and gentlemen, I present the Deep Fleet. 3,000 ships of various classes built over 5 decades using our most advanced technology. The aliens think they're dealing with a primitive species with 200 obsolete vessels. They have no idea what's waiting for them. The Japanese representative spoke up nervously. 3,000 ships sounds impressive, but you said their technology is superior. Will numbers be enough? David smiled grimly. We've learned a few tricks from the Pioneers' sensor data. Our engineers have been working around the clock to develop countermeasures. We can't match their energy shields yet, but we've found ways to overload them. Our new railguns fire projectiles at a significant fraction of light speed. And we've developed something they won't expect, which is desperation tactics. Every human ship is equipped with a suicide override. If we can't win through conventional means, we'll ram them. Our pilots have been training for kamikaze runs. The aliens fight like civilized beings following established rules of warfare. We're going to fight like cornered animals. President Santos stood up slowly. Admiral, are you asking us to authorize a war that could end with human extinction? I'm asking you to authorize a war that will either end with human extinction or human freedom. There is no middle ground here. The vote was closer than David had hoped, but it passed. Humanity would not surrender. 10 days later, the alien patrol fleet arrived at the edge of Earth's solar system. 50 ships, each one a masterwork of galactic engineering, advanced toward the third planet with casual confidence. Commander Thok of the Draknari reviewed his orders one final time. Demonstrate overwhelming superiority, accept surrender, begin. Preliminary subjugation procedures, simple and routine. The human response was equally routine. Their pathetic little fleet of obsolete vessels moved out to meet the Draknari force near Mars. Commander Thok counted barely 80 ships, many of them obviously converted civilian craft. This will be over quickly, he told his bridge crew. Begin standard intimidation broadcast. The human fleet responded exactly as expected. They transmitted desperate pleas for negotiation, offers of surrender, promises of cooperation. Commander Thok ignored them all. The council had been clear. No negotiation, only submission. The battle began with the humans opening fire at maximum range with primitive chemical rockets and crude energy weapons. Commander Thok was amused to see their desperation. The human weapons couldn't even scratch Draknari shields. Return fire, he ordered. Disable their engines. We want some prisoners for interrogation. The Draknari plasma cannons lanced out, and 3 human ships exploded instantly. The remaining vessels scattered in panic, firing wildly as they retreated toward their home planet. But something was wrong. The humans weren't retreating in an organized fashion. Instead, they seemed to be positioning themselves for ramming attacks. Sir, multiple human vessels are accelerating directly toward our ships, reported his tactical officer. Impossible. No species would waste ships in suicide attacks during a minor engagement. He was wrong. The first human ship slammed into a Draknari cruiser at full acceleration. Both vessels were destroyed instantly. Then another, and another. What kind of madness is this? Commander Thok demanded. His answer came from the human admiral's final transmission. For Earth, for humanity, for our children who will never know slavery. When the battle ended, 12 Draknari ships had been destroyed or severely damaged. The human fleet was gone, but their sacrifice had sent a clear message. These creatures would rather die than submit. Commander Thok sent his report to the council with shaking claws. The humans are more resilient than anticipated. They employ suicide tactics and show no regard for casualties. However, their fleet has been eliminated. They cannot resist further. He was wrong about that too. As his damaged fleet limped away from Mars, deep space sensors throughout the solar system came online. Hidden facilities began transmitting data about alien ship movements, weapon capabilities, and shield frequencies. In bunkers buried beneath Earth's surface, Admiral David Carter reviewed the battle recordings with satisfaction. They had learned everything they needed to know about alien technology, and the cost had been acceptable. 80 obsolete ships and their volunteer crews had bought humanity the intelligence they needed to win the real war. Phase 1 complete, he announced to his staff. Begin preparing the Deep Fleet for deployment. When they come back with their real military force, we'll be ready for them. The Galactic Council had made their first mistake. They had underestimated human determination. Their second mistake would be far more costly. They were about to discover that humanity's visible fleet had been nothing more than a reconnaissance force. The real fight was about to begin. Prime Advisor Kell studied the holographic display showing the destroyed human fleet with growing irritation. The report from Commander Thok had been disturbing, but not for the reasons the Draknari officer might have expected. Suicide attacks, Kell muttered to himself. No civilized species resorts to such primitive tactics. The other council members gathered around the conference table shared his disgust. The Etherian representative pulsed with distaste, while the Quellian military advisors seemed genuinely puzzled by human behavior. Perhaps we underestimated their desperation, suggested the Vorthon delegate, her crystalline features reflecting the light from the hologram. Their willingness to die rather than surrender is unusual. It is barbaric, replied General Hax of the Draknari Military Command. No proper warrior throws away his life for no strategic gain. These humans are clearly mentally defective. Prime. Advisor Kell made his decision. The humans have proven they cannot be trusted to surrender peacefully. We will deploy the first intervention fleet to complete their subjugation. 200 ships should be more than sufficient to break their morale completely. The first intervention fleet was the Council's pride. 200 of their finest vessels, crews trained in occupation tactics, and enough firepower to reduce a planet's surface to molten slag. They had never failed to bring a rebellious world to heel. Admiral Zoreth commanded the fleet from his flagship, a massive dreadnought that had seen action in dozens of pacification campaigns. As they entered the human solar system, he broadcast the standard surrender demands on all frequencies. People of Earth, your resistance has ended in failure. Your fleet is destroyed. Your defenses are broken. Surrender now and accept integration into galactic civilization. Continue to resist and watch your world burn. The human response came from Admiral David Carter himself. This is Earth Defense Command. We reject your demands. If you want our world, come and take it. Admiral Zoreth was actually impressed by the human commander's courage, even if it was pointless. Very well. Begin the final assault. The human defense looked even more pathetic than expected. Barely 80 ships, many showing signs of hasty construction and desperate repairs. They formed up near Earth's moon, clearly planning a last stand to protect their homeworld. The battle unfolded exactly as Admiral Zoreth had predicted. Human ships fought with the same suicidal determination their predecessors had shown, but desperation could not overcome superior technology. One by one, the primitive human vessels were picked apart by Council plasma fire. Almost too easy. Zoreth commented to his bridge crew as the last human destroyer exploded in a ball of nuclear fire. His fleet began advancing toward Earth itself, preparing for orbital bombardment. The planet's population centers would be struck with precision weapons, breaking their will to resist while preserving the infrastructure the Council would need. That was when the real battle began. Space around the asteroid belt suddenly filled with new contacts. Hundreds of them. Admiral Zoreth stared in disbelief as ship after ship emerged from hidden positions among the space rocks. "Where did they come from?" he demanded. His tactical officer's voice shook with confusion. "Sir, we are detecting 500 new vessels. They appear to have been hiding in the asteroid field using some kind of stealth technology." The new human fleet looked completely different from the ships they had just destroyed. These vessels were larger, more heavily armed, and equipped with technology that should have been beyond human capabilities. "Deep Fleet Alpha to all Council vessels," came a new transmission. "You just destroyed our obsolete patrol fleet. Now you get to meet our real military." Admiral Zorth had barely seconds to process this information before the human counterattack began. The new ships moved with coordinated precision, firing weapons that his sensors couldn't identify. "Sir, they're using some kind of kinetic projectile weapon," his tactical officer reported. "Extremely high velocity. Our shields are holding, but barely." Impossible. Primitive kinetics cannot threaten Council shields. The first Draknari cruiser exploded as a human railgun projectile punched through its shields and hull at 20% of light speed. Then another. And another. "They're targeting our shield generators specifically," the tactical officer shouted over the sound of alarms. "They know exactly where to hit us." The human fleet fought unlike anything Admiral Zorth had ever encountered. Instead of the civilized exchange of fire at long range that characterized proper space combat, they swarmed his ships like angry insects. Multiple human vessels would coordinate attacks on single Council ships, overwhelming their defenses through sheer volume of fire. Worse still, the humans showed the same willingness to die that had marked their previous engagement. But now they were dying effectively. Human ships would deliberately ram Council vessels that had lost their shields, turning themselves into massive kinetic weapons. "Sir, we've lost 60 ships," his communications officer reported. "Admiral Crix is requesting permission to withdraw." Denied. "We cannot retreat from primitives." But 30 minutes later, Admiral Zorth found himself doing exactly that. His fleet was being systematically destroyed by an enemy that shouldn't have been able to scratch their paint. The survivors fled toward the outer system, leaving their dead behind. As his damaged flagship limped away from Earth, Admiral Zorth intercepted human military communications that chilled him to his core. "Deep Fleet Alpha to Earth Command. Engagement successful. Enemy retreating. Standing by for further orders." Earth Command to Alpha Fleet. "Well done. Return to base for refit and resupply. Beta through Kappa fleets remain on standby." Admiral Zorth felt his blood freeze. Beta through Kappa. That meant at least 9 more fleets of similar size. The humans had over 5,000 ships. His report to the Council was brief and terrifying. "The humans deceived us. Their visible fleet was a decoy. They possess significantly larger military forces than we believed possible. They have advanced technology we did not anticipate. They fight with tactics we cannot counter. We have severely underestimated this species." Prime Advisor Kell received the report in stunned silence. The Council had ruled the galaxy for 3 millennia. They had subjugated hundreds of species. Never in their long history had they encountered resistance like this. "How is this possible?" he asked his advisors. "Our intelligence indicated they were primitive." "Perhaps they have been preparing for this contact longer than we realized," suggested the Quellian military expert. "Their technology appears to have developed rapidly, specifically to counter our advantages." The Etherian representative pulsed with worry. "My people attempted to scan their thoughts during the battle. We found chaos. Their minds work in ways we cannot understand or predict. They think in patterns that seem random but produce effective results." Prime Advisor Kell studied the tactical recordings again. The human ships moved like schools of fish, responding to threats with fluid coordination that suggested either extremely advanced computer systems or natural group instincts his species had never developed. "What do we know about their remaining forces?" "Long-range scans suggest at least 10 more fleets of comparable size hidden throughout their solar system. They appear to have been preparing for interstellar warfare for decades, possibly longer." For the first time in his long life, Prime Advisor Kell felt something he had not experienced since his youth. Genuine fear. Not fear of death, which was a simple thing, but fear of the unknown. Fear of an enemy that thought differently, fought differently, and refused to follow the established rules of galactic conflict. The humans were not just refusing to surrender, they were winning. And if the intelligence reports were accurate, Earth had barely begun to fight. Deep beneath the surface of the Council homeworld, emergency sessions had been running for 3 straight days. The great chamber that had seen the rise and fall of countless civilizations now echoed with something unprecedented: genuine fear among the galaxy's rulers. Prime Advisor Kell watched the tactical recordings for the 100th time, searching for some explanation that made sense. The human fleet movements defied every principle of space combat his people had developed over millennia. They coordinate without central command, he observed to the assembled military experts. Watch this sequence: 17 human ships simultaneously. Target the same council vessel, but there are no communications between them. No orders given. They simply know what to do. General Hax of the Draknari shifted uncomfortably in his environmental suit. It could be some form of instantaneous communication we haven't detected. No, interrupted the Etherian representative, her energy form flickering with agitation. My people have analyzed their neural patterns extensively. These humans think as individuals, but somehow achieve collective action without losing personal initiative. It should be impossible. The Quellian science advisor brought up a new holographic display. We've identified over 300 distinct technological innovations in their recent fleet. They appear to reverse engineer and improve upon captured technology at a rate that exceeds our computational models. In the 6 months since first contact, they've advanced their military capabilities by what should require decades of development. Prime Advisor Kell felt a chill that had nothing to do with the chamber's temperature. Show me the deep space reconnaissance data again. The hologram shifted to display the human solar system. Red indicators marked probable military installations throughout the asteroid belt, around the gas giants, and on dozens of moons and planetoids. Conservative estimates suggest 10 additional fleets of comparable strength to the force that defeated Admiral Zoreth, the reconnaissance officer reported. However, we're detecting construction activity that indicates they may have significantly more vessels than even these estimates suggest. The Vorthan delegate spoke up, her crystalline features reflecting the hologram's light. What disturbs me most is their psychological profile. Every species we've conquered has shown predictable patterns of despair, negotiation attempts, or gradual acceptance of superiority. The humans show none of these responses. She activated a new display, showing intercepted human communications. Listen to this transmission from their Admiral David Carter to his fleet commanders. The recording played across the chamber. They think one victory makes them our masters. They don't understand that every ship they destroy only makes the rest of us more determined. Let them come with their full strength. We'll show them what humans do when we stop playing defensive. The chamber fell silent. He speaks as if their defeat strengthened them rather than weakened them, the Vorthan continued. Their casualties seem to increase their resolve rather than break it. This is completely contrary to the psychology of every other species in the galaxy. Prime Advisor Kell studied the long-range intelligence reports with growing dread. The humans weren't just resisting conquest. They were actively preparing to go on the offensive. Construction activity around their outer planets suggested they were building vessels larger than anything they had revealed so far. What about diplomatic contact? Suggested the Centauran ambassador. Perhaps we can negotiate some form of accommodation. General Hax laughed bitterly. Have you forgotten their response to our initial diplomatic overture? They told us to come and take their world if we wanted it. These creatures do not negotiate. They fight or they die. Then what do you suggest? Prime Advisor Kell asked. Full military commitment. Deploy the Nexus fleet. 500 ships, including our most advanced dreadnoughts. Overwhelm them before they can prepare further. The Etherian representative pulsed with alarm. The Nexus fleet has never been deployed against a single system. It's designed to pacify entire sectors of rebellious worlds. These humans are not a single rebellious world, General Hax replied grimly. They're something we've never encountered before. A species that becomes more dangerous when cornered, not less. Meanwhile, in the depths of Earth's military command center, Admiral David Carter reviewed intelligence reports that painted a picture just as concerning from humanity's perspective. The alien fleet they had defeated was only a fraction of the Galactic Council's total strength. "Sir," reported his intelligence officer, Major Rodriguez, "our deep space monitoring stations are detecting massive fleet movements in Council space. They're bringing in ships from across the galaxy." "How many ships?" "Conservative estimate puts it at 500 vessels, including several ship classes we haven't seen before. The energy signatures suggest weapons and defensive systems far more advanced than what we faced in the previous engagement." Admiral Carter studied the data with the same grim determination that had carried humanity through its darkest moments. "They're bringing everything they have." "Should we attempt diplomatic contact?" asked General Morrison, Earth's senior military strategist. "Perhaps we can find some way to avoid a battle that could destroy both civilizations." David shook his head. "They made their position clear from the beginning. Submit or die. There's no middle ground with these people. They see us as rebellious subjects, not equals worthy of negotiation." He activated the holographic display showing humanity's hidden assets throughout the solar system. "Major Rodriguez, what's the status of Deep Fleet's beta through Kappa?" "All fleets report ready for deployment, sir. Total strength is 4,000. Vessels, not counting the automated defense platforms and converted civilian ships." "And the new construction?" "The Titan-class dreadnoughts are ahead of schedule. We'll have 12 operational within the week." General Morrison looked puzzled. "Sir, we've never discussed Titan-class vessels before." Admiral Carter smiled grimly. "Some projects are so classified even the military command doesn't know about them. The Titan program began the day after we received the aliens' first ultimatum. We've been building them in the deepest parts of the asteroid belt." The hologram shifted to show massive construction facilities hidden in the largest asteroids. Each facility was building ships that dwarfed anything in Earth's previous fleet. Each Titan-class vessel is essentially a mobile fortress. They're designed with one purpose: to punch holes in alien formations that our smaller ships can exploit. How did we build them so quickly? We converted every available resource to military production the moment we knew we were facing extinction. Every mining operation, every manufacturing facility, every shipyard, the entire human race has been working toward this moment. Admiral Carter brought up the final display, showing the full scope of humanity's preparation. Over 6,000 combat vessels of various classes, supported by thousands of automated weapons platforms, converted civilian ships, and mobile defense installations. The aliens think they're facing a primitive species with limited military resources. They're about to discover that when humanity prepares for war, we don't just build armies. We build entire civilizations dedicated to survival. The transmission went out to every human fleet throughout the solar system. "All commands, this is Admiral Carter. Long-range sensors show the alien main fleet approaching. Estimated arrival in 48 hours. This is what we've been preparing for since first contact. They're bringing everything they have. So are we." The response came back from fleet commanders across the system, each message carrying the same determination that had driven humanity to the stars. "Ready and willing, sir." In the depths of space, two civilizations prepared for a battle that would reshape the galaxy. The Galactic Council brought the accumulated might of 3,000 years of conquest. Humanity brought something far more dangerous: the absolute refusal to accept defeat, no matter the odds. Neither side fully understood what they were about to face, but both knew that only one civilization would survive the coming storm intact. The Nexus fleet emerged from faster-than-light travel at the edge of Earth's solar system like a constellation of death. 500 ships, representing the combined military might of 12 galactic civilizations, spread across space in perfect formation. At their head flew the CNS Dominion, Prime Advisor Kell's personal flagship and the most advanced warship the Council had ever built. Admiral Zoreth, his reputation somewhat restored after surviving the previous human engagement, stood beside Kell on the massive bridge. Through the viewport, they could see the small blue world that had become the center of galactic attention. No more underestimation, Kell said quietly. If the humans wish to fight with their full strength, they shall face ours. The human response was immediate. Every deep space monitoring station in the solar system activated, filling space with scanning beams and targeting sensors. Then came the ships. From behind every major asteroid, from the shadows of gas giant moons, from hidden bases scattered throughout the outer planets, humanity's true fleet revealed itself. Admiral David Carter had been conservative in his estimates. The deep fleet numbered not 4,000 vessels, but nearly 6,000. Impossible, Admiral Zoreth whispered as his tactical displays filled with red contacts. No single system could support that many military vessels. Prime Advisor Kell watched the human fleet deployment with something approaching admiration. They didn't form traditional battle lines or defensive formations. Instead, the human ships spread throughout the entire solar system, turning every planet, moon, and asteroid into a potential firing position. They've turned their entire star system into a fortress, he observed. The human admiral's voice came across all frequencies. Galactic Council Fleet, this is Admiral David Carter of Earth Defense Command. You came to our home with 50 ships, expecting easy conquest. We showed you that was a mistake. You came with 200 ships expecting quick victory. We taught you that was foolish. Now you come with 500 ships, believing numbers will save you. You're about to learn why that's the worst mistake of all. Kell activated his fleet's communication system. Human commander, you are outnumbered and outgunned. Your system is surrounded. Surrender now, and your species will be allowed to survive as subjects of the Council. Counteroffer, David replied. Leave our system immediately, and we won't demonstrate why every other species in the galaxy should be afraid of humans when they're properly motivated. The battle began when a Council reconnaissance squadron moved too close to one of Jupiter's moons. Hidden weapons platforms opened fire with the railguns humanity had perfected, sending projectiles through space at significant fractions of light speed. 2 Quellian destroyers vanished in explosions that could be seen from Mars' Prime Advisor. Kell gave the order his species had been giving for 3 millennia. Begin planetary pacification. What followed was unlike any battle in recorded galactic history. The humans didn't meet the Council fleet in open combat. Instead, they struck from everywhere at once. Ships emerged from asteroid fields to launch torpedo spreads, then vanished back into the rocks. Squadrons hiding in the rings of Saturn would fire coordinated volleys, then scatter before return fire could reach them. The new Titan-class dreadnoughts revealed themselves like awakening giants. Each one was nearly as large as a council capital. Ship, but built with human design philosophy, overwhelming firepower, and the expectation that they would not survive the battle. The first Titan opened fire with weapons that shouldn't have existed, tearing through council formations with focused particle beams that made their plasma cannons look primitive. Where did they develop this technology? Admiral Zoreth demanded, as his flagship's shields flickered under human fire. They're learning from us, his science officer reported with disbelief. Every ship they capture, every weapon they analyze, they incorporate the improvements into their own designs, but they're doing it faster than should be possible. The Council's superior individual ship technology meant nothing against human tactics. The humans had studied every engagement, analyzed every weakness, and developed countermeasures for every Council advantage. More importantly, they fought with a coordination that seemed almost telepathic. Watch this, Admiral Zoreth told Kell, as his tactical display showed a human attack formation. 47 ships moving in perfect synchronization without any detectable communication between them. They anticipate each other's actions and adapt instantly to changing conditions. The human fleet commander's voice cut through the static of battle. All Deep Fleet units, the Council is learning to counter our hit-and-run tactics. Time for Phase 2. Suddenly, the scattered human forces began converging from all directions, toward the Council fleet's center. But they weren't just attacking. They were coordinating the assault with the automated defense platforms hidden throughout the system. Space around the embattled Council forces filled with missiles, torpedoes, and kinetic projectiles fired from dozens of hidden installations. The humans had turned their entire solar system into a weapon, and they were using it with devastating precision. "Sir," Admiral Zoreth's communications officer reported, "we're receiving surrender requests from 17 Council ships. The Vorthan squadron is requesting immediate evacuation. The Centauran fleet is reporting 70% casualties." Prime Advisor Kell watched his magnificent fleet being systematically destroyed by an enemy that refused to fight by any civilized rules. The humans seemed to view every Council advantage not as an insurmountable obstacle, but as a puzzle to be solved through creativity and determination. "They're not trying to match our technology," he realized aloud. "They're making it irrelevant." A human dreadnought, its hull scarred and burning, rammed directly into a Council battleship. Both vessels exploded in a nuclear fireball, but the human ship had accomplished its mission, opening a hole in the Council formation that smaller human vessels immediately exploited. "This is madness," Admiral Zoreth said. "They're throwing away their lives for minimal tactical gain." "No," Kell corrected, understanding flooding through him. "They're trading their lives for strategic advantage. Every sacrifice weakens our formation, disrupts our coordination, forces us to respond to threats we cannot predict." The human commander's voice came across the communications channel again, but this time it was directed at his own forces. "All ships, remember what we're fighting for. Remember your families, your friends, your children who will grow up free because of what we do here today. Make every shot count. Make every sacrifice meaningful." The response from thousands of human voices was immediate and unified. "For Earth, for humanity, for freedom!" Kell felt something he had never experienced in 3,000 years of galactic dominion, the certain knowledge that his side was going to lose. Not because they lacked firepower or tactical skill, but because they were fighting an enemy that simply would not accept defeat. "Sir," Admiral Zoreth's tactical officer reported, "the human fleet is surrounding us. They're accepting massive casualties to cut off our escape routes." On the display, Kell watched human ships position themselves between the Council fleet and the edge of the solar system. They were sacrificing mobility and defensive positioning to trap their enemies, betting everything on their ability to destroy the Council force completely. "They mean to end this here," Kell realized. "No retreat, no regrouping, no second chances. They're going to finish this battle one way or another." The tide of battle turned definitively when the largest human titan opened fire with a weapon the Council had never seen before. A focused gravitational beam that didn't just destroy ships, but tore them apart at the molecular level. The CNS Supremacy, flagship of the Draknari fleet, simply ceased to exist. "What was that?" Admiral Zoreth demanded. "Something they shouldn't have been able to build," his science officer replied with shaking voice. "That was controlled gravity manipulation. We've been working on that technology for centuries without success. How did they develop it so quickly?" "They didn't develop it. They weaponized it. There's a difference. We've been trying to create elegant, efficient gravity control. They just built a gun that tears holes in space-time." The remaining Council ships found themselves fighting for survival rather than victory. Human vessels swarmed them like angry insects, accepting devastating losses to bring down single Council ships. But the losses were not random or wasteful. Each human sacrifice served a purpose, weakening the Council formation for the next attack. Prime Advisor Kell made the hardest decision of his long life. "Signal general retreat. All ships withdraw to the edge of the system." "Sir," "We cannot retreat from primitives," Admiral Zorith protested. "These are not primitives," Kel replied quietly. "These are something we've never encountered before. A species that grows stronger through adversity, more united through sacrifice, and more dangerous when cornered." The surviving Council ships began withdrawing toward the edge of the solar system, but the humans weren't finished with them. Human squadrons harassed the retreating fleet every step of the way, striking and vanishing like ghosts in the void. When the CNS Dominion finally reached the edge of human space, Prime Advisor Kel found his flagship surrounded by a dozen human vessels. Their weapons were powered down, but their message was clear. Admiral David Carter's voice came through the communications system one final time. "Prime Advisor Kel, I believe you wanted to discuss terms." The holographic projector activated, showing the human admiral's image on the Council flagship's bridge. He looked tired, scarred, and completely uncompromising. "Your terms?" Kel asked. "Simple. You leave us alone, completely. No trade negotiations, no diplomatic contact, no surveillance, nothing. In return, we won't hunt down the rest of your fleet or follow you back to Council space. And if we refuse," David's smile was as cold as deep space, "then you'll discover why we built 10 more fleets after the ones you've already seen. This was just our defensive force. You really don't want to see what we've prepared for offensive operations." Kel looked around his damaged bridge, at the scattered remains of the most powerful fleet in galactic history, at the human ships whose crews had just proven themselves willing to die for something as abstract as freedom. "Your terms are acceptable." The Treaty of Sol was signed 3 weeks later, not on a Council world or neutral territory, but in Earth's own solar system. The message to the galaxy was unmistakable. Humanity was not a subject species to be conquered, but a power to be respected. As the Council delegation prepared to leave human space forever, Prime Advisor Kel asked Admiral Carter one final question. "How did you do it? How did a single species resist the combined might of the galaxy?" David looked out at the stars, where human construction crews were already beginning to build new ships to replace the ones lost in battle. "You made one fundamental mistake," he said. "You assumed that because we were new to the galaxy, we were weak. You thought that because we lacked your technology, we lacked the will to fight. But you never understood the most important thing about humanity, which is, we don't just fight to win, we fight to survive. And when survival is at stake, there is no force in the universe stronger than a human who refuses to give up." The Council fleet departed Earth's solar system, carrying, with them, the news that would reshape galactic politics forever. There was a new power among the stars, one that had earned its place not through conquest or diplomacy, but through the simple, absolute refusal to bow to any authority except their own. In the depths of space, hidden shipyards continued their work. Because humanity had learned the most important lesson in galactic politics, peace was not maintained through submission, but through the certainty that aggression would cost more than anyone was willing to pay. The galaxy had thought one fleet would terrify humanity into surrender. Instead, they had awakened something that would make the stars themselves tremble. Humans who knew they were not alone, and who had decided that they would rather die free than live as slaves. The age of human isolation was over. The age of human independence had begun.